Azure Application Insights on your environment. The name of it is a little bit misleading, so it's called Azure Application Insights. However, you can actually use it for on-premise environments as well. And then after you've activated it on your environment, what now? Where do you go? What do you do? What happens from there on? And then I will give you some more details, resources, and links on where to go from here. I've decided to make the main focus of this session to enable you as the partners to get going with Azure Application Insights. Basically, within my presentation, you will find a lot of links, a lot of information on where you can go from here, what you can do from here, where you can find some more information, etc. Okay, so let's get going. What is Azure Application Insights? So, like I mentioned, Microsoft has announced that it's now launched this Azure Application Insights for Business Central. But Azure Application Insights is actually a small part of Azure Monitor. So if you have an Azure subscription or you have ever used Azure, you've actually seen Azure Monitor before. So if I go in here, I've set up a demo environment for this area over here. If I log into Microsoft Azure and you come into Azure, Azure Monitor is actually one of the features in Microsoft Azure. So if you click on the top left over there, or you search for it over there, you'll actually find, usually you'd have to search for it. Because I've been in there before, it actually comes up as one of the most recent links. So when I click on Monitor over there, this is Azure Monitor over here. But if you've ever used Azure for anything, I mean, even if I go into Azure Active Directory as an silly example, right on my landing page, I've got some graphs and interesting stats and everything in there. Azure Monitor is part of Azure. And if you've ever seen any of these graphs, this is Azure Monitor delivering these graphs to you. So Azure Monitor, when Microsoft built Azure, they needed something to be able to monitor. I mean, if you think about the scale of Microsoft Azure and the size of the deployment, etc., the size of this, there's no way that Microsoft can manage these servers individually. They needed something to be able to monitor everything that goes on within Azure and tell them when something is about to go wrong, etc. So that is actually what Azure Monitor is. Now, if we have a look over here, this is everything that feeds Azure Monitor. So from the left-hand side, you've got your different Azure tenants, all of your different Azure subscription, your different Azure resources, etc. Even operating systems, etc., is feeding information into Azure Monitor. And then right at the top over here, you've got your different web applications. And this is where Application Insights actually fits into Azure Monitor. Applications can actually feed informations into the Azure Monitor. You can also create some custom sources. Anything that uses a REST API, you can actually have that feed information into the Azure Monitor as well. Now, Azure Monitor basically maximizes the availability and the performance of your applications and services by delivering comprehensive solutions for collecting, analyzing, and acting on telemetry from your cloud and on-premise environment. It helps you understand how your applications are performing and proactively identifies issues affecting them and the resources that they actually depend on. Now, what does it feed us? It feeds us two main things. You can see over here, the information that it feeds us, two main things over there is metrics and logs. So they are numerical values that are describe some aspect of the system at a particular point in time. They're usually lightweight and capable of supporting near real-time scenarios, where logs contain different kinds of data organized into records with different sets of properties for each type, and telemetry and traces data that's actually stored. So the metrics is something that you can monitor more real time. So you can see what is basically happening with the system at this point in time, whereas the logs at the bottom over here is just logging information constantly. Now, if you imagine the scale of Azure and the amount of information that's in there, and the amount of information that's actually logged in here, this is obviously big data that we're dealing with over here. So Microsoft needed a different type of solution in order to be able to view this information. And there's some new technology and things that I'll show you guys a little bit later on that they had to implement. So there's some new things that we're going to have to learn in order to mine this data over there. And then once you've got this data over here, what can you do with it? So basically, you can start analyzing this data. So there is obviously the metric and analytics and the log analytics, and that's actually fairly easy. I mean, when you go into Azure over there and you go into Azure Monitor, on the left-hand side over here, you will see metrics and you'll see logs. And when you click on those two, you'll actually see your metrics and your logs on the right-hand side over there. So this is where you can view your different metrics, and this is where you can view your different logs. Now, obviously, at the moment over here, I've got no data in this system. This is just a demo system that I put up. So if you actually had a running system, you'd be able to see logs and analytics and things in here. Unfortunately, I don't have a running system that I could show you guys this on. The running system that I'm going to be demoing on is one of my own systems, but obviously there's some data and things in there that might be sensitive as well. So so that's one place you can go to then view that. And then what else can you do with this? You can also set up alerts. So you can actually be alerted about any type of things happening within your Azure environment. So I can go and say, as soon as something happens, alert me that this particular area that I'm monitoring has gone above a specific percentage, etc. You can set up auto scaling. So if you're using Azure for your virtual machines, etc., you can go and set up that as soon as my system starts reaching 60 or 70% capacity, automatically scale out and activate more virtual machines. So you can have virtual machines shut down so that they don't cost you as much. And then when the machines start being utilized, you can have the system automatically detect that and scale out and add more virtual machines to your cluster, for instance, to cope with the additional demand. You can also integrate Azure Monitor, like I mentioned, from custom sources over there, data coming into Azure Monitor, but also data flowing out of Azure Monitor. So you can actually have data from Azure Monitor be sent outside to other monitoring applications that you might actually be using. Then to actually visualize this data that you're working with, within Azure Monitor, you've got something called dashboards, where you can go and set up dashboards and views. You can integrate this into Power BI and actually get the data and analyze and review the data within Power BI, etc. There's also some insights, standard insights for VMs, containers, etc., that you could use to actually monitor some of your existing Azure deployments, etc. If you want to learn more about Azure Monitor, I've included 2 links in the PowerPoint presentation for you guys. So the first link over there is just an overview of Azure Monitor. So everything that I've just explained, you'll actually find on docs.microsoft.com. If you just search for Azure Monitor Overview, docs.microsoft.com is one of the first links that actually comes up. But this gives you a quick overview, and there's a 5-minute video over here. I think it's about 5 minutes, it wasn't very long, that just explains to you exactly what Azure Monitor actually is, what it is, how it works. And then it goes into some details about the metrics and the logs, like I just mentioned, tells you a little bit more about each of those. What type of information does it collect, how to get data from REST APIs into the system, some extra insights, etc. Everything you need to know and everything that I've mentioned in more detail is over here. There's even some FAQs and what's new, etc., how to get started, tutorial samples. There's everything you need to know is in this link that I've included over there. The next link over there specifically talks about application insights. So like we've just learned in the previous slides over here, application insights is actually just a part of Azure Monitor. If you go to the second link over there, this is sort of the introduction link into what is application insights and how does application insights actually work. Now, application insights in its pure form, like we're looking at it over here, is actually just an API for you to go and develop an interface that logs insights into your application on the left-hand side over here into Azure Monitor. So if you've got a web application, you know, some web pages with a middle tier server and a database in the background, just like Business Central is, you can write integration into application insights so that it logs information for you in Azure Monitor. So there's details in here about how to do it, what does it do, what does it monitor, and how to do all of it. And of course, what Microsoft has actually done for us is they have already done this integration for us. Just like Microsoft's done for quite a couple of their other apps, they've already released integration into application insights for us for Business Central. So how do I activate that in my environment? Let's have a look. So to set up application insights, what you're going to need is you're going to need an Azure subscription. So I created a demo Business Central site for us over here. Oops, actually, that's the other one. So I created a demo Business Central app for us over here. So this is a full Business Central demo tenant, but you're going to need an Azure subscription. So if I go to the Azure subscription for this demo site that I've got over here, and I try and activate application insights, you will get a message saying that you're going to need a subscription. So you're going to need to have at least an Azure free trial. So for those of you that haven't worked with Azure, you can activate a free trial, etc. But you're going to need a subscription linked to your Business Central instance. And I just thought of something. The one thing I didn't include in my presentation is the first couple of gigs, and I can't remember exactly how much it is. I can't remember whether it's 6 or 60 now for the life of me. But it is on one of the websites that I've included in the link. They tell you how many gigs is free, but it's quite a bit. The first couple of gigs is actually quite free. And the one site where I have actually assisted a partner activating this on a customer's site, they have not gotten anywhere near that link. And it was specifically for them that I looked up what that limit is for the first time. So you're going to need an Azure subscription. And once you have that, you need a BC instance version 15 or later. This was only activated in version 15, and of course on the current version 16, it's available. And what are the steps to do it? So you activate application insights in Azure, and then for Business Central SaaS, you set up the application insights key in the admin center. And if you're running the on-premise version, you need to run a script to set the application insights key, or you can just go and set it in the server settings. But I'll show you how to do that just now. Let's go and have a look. So I've actually got one of my Azure subscriptions over there. So this is actually one of my personal subscriptions. If you go to application insights over there, if you do actually have a subscription, this is the screen that you'll come to when you go to application insights. Sometimes when you go to services over here, you need to go to all services and then maybe search for application insights over here. Like I mentioned, if you've been to that link before, it'll be one of the most recent links over there. But when you go to application insights, you need to create an application insight instance. So let me just step you through the process over here just to show you what actually happens over there. So you click on add. And for some other reason, this is not playing ball with us today. I see it is going over there.
Bernie?
Yeah?
It's Andy here. Sorry, mate. I just didn't want to interrupt, but could I ask you to slow down a bit? Because I think you're going quite fast because you get very passionate about this stuff. And I think that those who are not native speakers would struggle to follow you, mate. All right? Thanks very much.
Perfect.
Cheers.
No problem. Yeah, the demo gods was not on my side today. The application insights demo that I activated over here, even though I activated it really early this morning, it takes a couple of hours for it to show, start showing insights, but it never ended up bringing any insights through. So I didn't actually have the time to run through my presentation once, so I have no idea how long my presentation actually is. That's probably why I'm running so fast this today. So once you activate the application insights in Azure, so if you go to Azure, all services, and you go to application insights, and you add a new instance in there, all you need to do is just give it a resource group that you'd like to add it to, and then that creates your application insights for you over there. So once you go into application insights, In the overview area over here, there is a couple of information or a little bit of information over here that's fairly important. The main thing over here is your subscription ID. This is the key that you need to give Business Central in order to activate your subscription. There is some more information that's pertinent over here. Later on when you deploy, I'm going to show you how to deploy a dashboard. And there we go. It's just come up. I don't know why it's taken so long. So this is how you create a new one. When you click on new, basic information you need to give it is you need to tell it what subscription you'd like to add it to and which resource group you'd like to add this new insight to. Give it a name and where you'd like to deploy it. From there on, that's about the basic information that you need to give it. You can add some tags and then review and create your actual deployment over there. Obviously, I'm not going to create a new one over there, so I'm just going to go back to all services, application insights. Let's go back to my current deployment. So, and this is the type of information that you normally would not put on a webinar like this. So right after this webinar, I'm actually going to go and delete this one because having this type of information out in the public domain is not actually all that good. So there's a subscription ID that I can now use, and I just go and copy that subscription ID. And to activate that on Business Central, all I would need to do is go into my Business Central Admin Center. And in the Admin Center, I have my environments. Go into one of your environments, and you can see over here, this one has already been activated. I have the application insights key already in there. I did that this morning. But if I go to the second environment over there, you will see I created a second environment specifically for this demo. The application insights key is not set, and all you need to do is click on the application insights key, enable it, paste the key, and hit the save button. And it really is that easy. You are going to get a warning at this point in time. Okay, the system is going to jump back and tell you, listen, yeah, it did not give me the warning. It actually gave me the warning this morning. I'm not sure why it didn't give it to me now, but it should give you a warning saying that, listen, yeah, when you deploy this, it is going to take your system offline. It needs to dismount and remount that specific tenant. So any,
I think you need to have the other key. When you had the window, it said the instrumental key. I think you paste the subscription key. Is that possible? That you probably switched the keys somewhere?
It probably is because I was busy talking and
I think you have the instrumental key right
demoing at the same time. Okay. In any case, I actually did get the environment from this morning. Let's just see. That is the subscription ID. B4BD. Okay. It's not important for the demo. I just wanted to show you guys how to actually get that key in there.
I tend to agree. Maybe that's why you didn't get any data.
Okay. That probably is why. So I pasted the wrong key. But that is all you need to do once you've got the key in there. You are good to go. So if you've activated the application insights in Azure and you've pasted that key from the admin center, it should be good to go. For Business Central on-prem, there is a script that you need to do. Sorry, that's the demo that I've actually just done. For the on-premise, there is a command that you need to run, set nav server configuration, and then you set the key name application insights instrumentation key. Okay, so yes, it is the instrumentation key that you need to copy. So I copied the subscription key this time around. Key value, then you paste the GUID in there, apply to all server instance, and then instance name, and that will set the server configuration for a single tenant. Now that's available at the moment, and your on-premise deployment, you can actually deploy this. For a multi-tenanted deployment, however, what's going to happen is every single tenant in there will need to be dismounted and remounted, and this will only be available from 2019 release wave 2. So this is not available I think I actually even got that wrong. I think it's 2020 release wave 2. This will be available. I'll just have to double check that. But the multi-tenanted mode, these are the 2 commands that you need to run to get the application insights key deployed. Let's actually go and just do this quickly for my main production environment. Let's change that and see if we get any data coming through before the end of this presentation, because the last time I got this working, it wasn't even a half an hour and it was through. I never even thought of going and checking that I'd actually copied the correct key through. Okay, a couple of things to consider about this is when you set this up, you have to consider what and how do you actually want to monitor, who needs access to that information, how do you want to set up your alerts, etc. Because if you have, for instance, multiple customers that you'd like to monitor, you can set up one application insights in your Azure environment and link all of your different customer sites to your Azure application insights. What's going to happen though is that those Azure application insights for every single site is going to come through to your deployment. So what if one of your customers comes to you one day and says he would like access to his application insights? Now you can give outside people access to that application insights, but you cannot, it's not a good idea to give a customer access to your environment if other customer data is being logged to that same environment. So what you could do is within Azure, you could even go and create multiple different application insights over there, maybe one per customer. But then again, every time you want to set up new alerts or anything like that, you would have to do it once for every single environment. So there's quite a couple of considerations and things you'd have to take into account when you decide how you're actually going to deploy that. You could put all of your customers into one area, and if one of your customers then requests access, maybe create a second one just for them. But when you move them across to a different environment, of course, they're going to lose the history that might be sitting in your existing environment. So you have to consider, what if customers want access to some of their own data? And you might also want to consider different application insights for production environments as to your dev, test, UAT environments, etc. Also for multi-tenanted environments, if you are an ISV and you've got an ISV solution and you'd like to monitor all of your different customer sites, where do you want to log that information on whose Azure environment? You might actually, the customers might actually, because remember, you're going to start paying for the environment as well once it goes over the certain amount of gigs that you're allocated free for Azure Monitor per month. So you might want to log that into the customer's Azure environments as well, every customer onto their own environment. So these are some of the things that you need to bring into consideration when actually setting this type of environment up. So now that you've actually gone and deployed it into Azure, where do you go from here? What now? So Microsoft has actually created some sample dashboards for you. Now, if you go into Azure, one of the areas that you have over there is called shared dashboards. And in there, you can actually go and create dashboards to combine information even. So you might have, let's say, for instance, you've got integration into different areas. You've got some code that's running in Azure. You've got some virtual machines running external applications that you're integrating into Business Central, whatever it is. You can actually create dashboards over here to combine information from the different areas within Azure Monitor to actually monitor that information. Now, Microsoft has already created a bunch of sample dashboards for us over here, and you could actually just take those sample dashboards and go and deploy them. So on this website, aka.ms/BC telemetry samples, you can actually go onto this site, and there is quite a bit of sample stuff in here for you to actually go and use. There's even a PowerPoint presentation. So if you want to do a presentation to your customers, for instance, there's a PowerPoint presentation in there for you to start you off and get you going. But there is a folder in there called dashboard, and then there's a folder for Kusto query language, which we're going to get to a little bit later on. But when you go into the dashboard directory over there, Microsoft's created a bunch of sample dashboards for you. And with all the information that you require to actually deploy that, the templates and the scripts and everything else you'll find in there. But there's a button that they've just created over there that just says deploy to Azure. And if you click on that button, it'll actually open up Microsoft Azure, ask you to sign in. I think it's going to give me a hassle now because now it's not picking up the correct username and password. But all you need to do is you need to specify 3 things in this custom deployment. You need to say what subscription you'd like to add this to. So obviously at the moment, I don't have a subscription. You'd have to say what resource group is it that you'd like to deploy this to? In what region would you like to do this deployment in? And then you just need to give it, what is the application insight subscription ID? And this is where you actually give it the subscription ID. So for that one, you go into your application insights. And this is where you need to give it the wrong one that I copied, the subscription ID instead of an instrumentation key. So you give it the subscription ID to say this is the subscription that you require, the resource group name. So in other words, in what resource group did you go and deploy this area, and what is the application insights name? So that's the name up top over here for your actual application insights deployment. And then you just click review and create, and that will deploy all of these sample dashboards for you. So if I go back to dashboards over there, you'll see I still haven't got anything coming through in here. But there is some sample dashboards. One of the ones that you guys might be interested in terms of performance, long-running SQL queries. There's some sample in here for you guys. Now, the dashboards over there, you can actually go and edit your dashboard. So if you want to add any new parameters that you'd like to see, you can go and edit, unshare, delete them from there. Or if you want to edit any of the existing graphs and things that you've got over there, you can actually go and edit some of the, there we go, that's the button I was looking for. You can actually go and edit because this is in the room, because I haven't got any data coming through, I probably won't see my query. No, I thought so. So some of you, if my screen was fast enough, some of you might have actually seen it up there, but this is what the queries actually look like in the background behind these charts. So there's a new type of query language that we need to learn. It's called Kusto query language, and that's the query language that we use to get information out of Azure Monitor. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on, but this is what all I wanted to show you in there is that is the query that's actually used, or this is the type of query. I copied this from one of the other deployments. But this is the type of query that you actually get that feeds information through into your actual Azure Monitor. So if you go to BC telemetry samples, you can get all sorts of code samples. There's some Kusto query language samples in there. And there's quite a bit of data in there for you to actually just delve into and get going. You can also connect your Power BI to your application insights. There is a document on docs.microsoft.com that tells you how to feed Power BI from application insights. There's a little bit of setup that you would need to do that. But once you've got this going and you've got the graphs and the dashboards and everything, there is, where do you go from there? What do I actually monitor? And I was working on my computer a little bit earlier today, and all of a sudden things started running slow. And what's the first thing I did? I opened up Task Manager and I had a look at the different parameters on my computer. And I can see that the resource that was actually strained at that point in time when I had some performance issues was the CPU. And the second I did that, I realized that this is exactly how you learn what to monitor and where to go. Is you didn't know when you started working with computers that you have the task manager there and you can go and have a look at what resources is taking strain. You didn't know you can go to your processes and see which process is actually consuming the CPU power. You learned that over time by monitoring and continually looking at the information in here when you had performance problems. Every time you have a performance problem, you open this up, you have a look, what's giving me hassles, what's underperforming. And by having a look at these graphs over time, you learn that when one of the graphs spikes over here, that is a resource that's giving me issues. And then you delve into that telemetry a little bit further. And that's exactly how you deal with application insights and Azure Monitor. Is when you start having problems, have a look at the parameters and the telemetry and the graphs and the details in there. And it actually gives you the ability to drill down. And there's quite a couple of websites that gives you information on how to actually do that. So there's some new skills that you're going to need in order to be able to delve down further into this. One of them is the Kusto query language, or KQL. This is the query language that we use, and there's some sample code in there as well on how to actually delve further into the information and how to query the information that's being logged. You can also, you're going to need to learn more about Azure Monitor. Like I mentioned, Application Insights is only a portion of Azure Application Monitor, but you're going to need to learn how Azure Application Monitor works, what it is, what it does, how to set up alerts and everything else, because that is what you're going to be using to delve into the metrics and things that's logged by the system. Then there's some troubleshooting guides on docs as well, docs.microsoft.com. Obviously, that's one of your main resources where you're going to go to get more information on this. Now, the Kusto query language, I've already shown you a little bit of this is the screen that didn't come up, so I just slapped a screenshot on here of it because I couldn't get this to work since it wasn't logging anything at this stage. So this is the screen, and this is where you're going to be creating your query languages, and this is where you'll get your results from. Now, there is actually a course on Pluralsight available. We'll definitely be working on getting a course going on Kusto query language as well as Azure Application Insights, etc. We'll work on getting something like that out for you guys in future as well. Okay, some more details, resources and links. Some more detail, what is available at the moment? What can you monitor within Azure Application Insights? So in 2019 release wave 2, they launched the long-running SQL queries as well as the authorization. So when users log on, etc., you can actually see when they've logged on. What is available at the moment is web service request, report execution, open company timings, and company life cycles. So when companies are created, etc., all of this information is already available, and most of these, as you can see, was released now in June. What's coming? There's a couple of things that we're waiting for. Extension lifecycle and database lock timeouts, probably some of the big ones. But update failures. So when Microsoft releases a new update, say for instance there's some breaking changes or something causes your upgrade to fail or your extension not to update. All of those update failures, etc., will be logged for us. Client page views, so when clients, what pages are clients actually opening up, and what pages have they viewed. Sorry, this is more the extension lifecycle is what I mentioned when I saw the update failures. The update failures is if there is a failure for any updates into Business Central for users changing data or anything like that. And then the database lock timeout. So if any locks times out, we'll actually have that logged for us in Application Insights as well. There is quite a bit of information out there at the moment. There's some blogs out there as well where you can actually go and get information. If you go to this blog over here, and I've included the link in here for you guys, you can actually learn how to add Application Insights to your code. So on this blog over here, It'll tell you where to get started with Application Insights. They've got some links to other pages over there. Gives you a link to a repository over there. From there, you can actually just download an extension, make a dependency on that extension. And what he does in this sample code over here is he says, how long does it take to actually drink a beer? So he's just got one procedure over there that just calls 5 different other procedures. And inside those procedures, it's just put a sleep time in there. So sleep for 1000 milliseconds, etc. And then for take sip, you can see over there for 1 to 10, just sleep 500 milliseconds each. And then what he did was he added application insight management, which is the code unit. And we just say start the function execution and track execution time. Okay, so all that does is it tracks the time that it takes for this code to execute from this point to this point. Now we pass a text parameter at the back over there, okay? And that text parameter over there says from that point to this point, how long did it actually take? And it starts logging some time. Then just to call that function, you just created a report and then executed the report. And you'll see over there that he starts getting some telemetry coming back saying that the report execution took 14,000 milliseconds. So in other words, 14 seconds for that report to actually execute. Then he started adding some extra telemetry. So to the different functions like take bottle, open bottle, take sip, etc. He started adding application insights to each one of the different functions. And you'll see over there that he's actually getting back that it took 16 milliseconds now for the entire thing to execute, whereas at first it only took 14 seconds. But now you've got the extra telemetry from take bottle, open bottle, take sip, throw bottle, relax, etc. You've got that extra telemetry that you can look at now. But look at the 2-second overhead that adding the application insights has actually added into his code. So yes, there is a little bit of an overhead, but at least you have the ability to now go through your code and go and figure out where the performances are actually coming from. So this is just a little bit of an example of how you can actually use the sample code. There is a second link at the bottom over here that will take you to a GitHub page where you can actually go and find out more about the application insights management, okay, about the API, the different functions and the parameters that you need to send to those functions, what it is that they do, etc. So if you want to learn more about the application insights API, there is a link to a page that will teach you more about that. Some more resources. If you want to get started with application insights, I've included a link over there for you. To a blog. I think this was a blog that actually just tells you how to get started with application insights. So everything that I did in this presentation here today, here is a blog that introduces you to application insights, and this is just general application insights. So this will teach you about application insights, what it is, how it works. There's the key that you need. Go and add it into your AL code, etc. So here is a blog that tells you exactly how to get going with application insights. Mark Brummel has actually released quite a bit of interesting information in the last while, and he started a blog series about Business Central performance tuning and application insights. I've included 2 links to his 2 pages over there. Sorry, this is the 2 that actually tells you how to get going with application insights. So if you go to this one, it has an introduction, tells you about the metrics and logs once again, how to work with application insights, tells you a little bit about the Custo query language, the dashboards and Power BI, and oh yeah, one thing that he mentions over here that is very important is that application insights is mandatory for everyone, whether you are a consultant, a developer, a support engineer, whether you're a salesperson. It doesn't matter who you are, you need to know and understand about application insights and what it is and what it does. There's some more about it, how to get going, and then This is the last blog that I've included in here for you guys. There's not much available at the moment, but this is the one that actually shows you how to set everything up and get everything going. So I've included enough links in there with enough information to get you guys going with application insights and actually get you to start logging information. I hope that you guys have found this little bit informative and right on 45 minutes. I actually wanted to leave about 10 minutes for questions. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions.
Thanks, Bernie. Great presentation. I'm just checking if there's anything in the chat box. Not yet. Yeah, please feel free to raise your hand and just yeah, ask up.
Okay, let's see if we have any. Let's see if we have any application insights coming through in the meantime, since we've got some extra time.
So a question from Arthur van der Voort, is that correct?
Yes, correct. Microsoft announced, I believe, directions or something. They said we don't do any debugging more on production environments. We sincerely only depend on App Insights to view if there is a problem or something. My question is if there's an error before handling in Business Central, for example, it throws an error message, can I view in App Insights the error message and the stack trace or something like that?
Yeah, it actually gives quite a bit of information in the background. There's you can actually trace exactly what information led up to the error, details about the error message, etc. I haven't actually gotten around to playing with that myself, but I did see one of the presentations, and he was actually able to, when an error was thrown, he was able to see everything that led up. If I remember correctly, I think it was even variable values and things that you can log. But what you're going to be able to log is going to depend on, let me just get back to this. So if you have a look here, tell you now where to, this one. So this one on GitHub, Application Insights. Let's just quickly see over here. I think there was something I saw over here. Exception warning, trace information. I think this was the one that he used in that presentation, but I'm going to have to delve more deeply into that to get you an exact answer.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
We have another one, Toon Stars.
Yes, if I may, we installed the application insights on our Business Central a week ago, and we noticed some of the columns are still empty, like dependencies, requests, and exceptions are only showing JavaScript exceptions. Is that normal, or should we expect something different?
I am going to have to take that question offline and just get back to you. I've deployed it with a customer and a partner here in South Africa, where I actually know the customer and the partner, the resources that did it fairly well, and we did it together. But I cannot remember whether we noticed any columns that was empty. I'll have to have a look at that as well and tell you whether ours was empty as well.
Because I suspect is that we are only getting a browser information and not server information. But yeah, it's something to look on. Yeah,
I will get your details. In actual fact, if you can do me a favor, on my last slide over here, I've got my email address at the bottom over there. Just send me an email, and then I'll have a look at that and get back to you on that one. I'll have a look at what we've got over there.
Okay.
I didn't notice any empty columns, but I'll have a look at what we've got and then get back to you on that.
Thank you very much.
Possible solution as well.
Okay.
Very good. I do not see any raised hands. And let me check once more in the chat. There is also nothing. If you have questions, just speak up.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself.
Bernie, Theo here. I trust you're going to drop this presentation with all its handy links into the team meeting for us, are you?
Yeah, I don't think it'll work when I dump it into the team meeting. So any of you that want to have the presentation, send me an email and then I'll get that through to you as well. Where is the recording going to be made available?
We are going to send it out via email, and we put it on our YouTube channel.
Okay. Excellent. So the video will be on YouTube, but it's a bit of a story to write down all of those URLs manually. So send me an email and then I'll include the presentation for you guys. I specifically included everything in the presentation so that if I mail you the presentation, you'll have access to all the links as well.
Thanks, Bernie.
Pleasure.
Very good. We have some time left. Any questions we can just answer right now?
Let me see if I can kill our last couple of minutes by seeing if there's anything else I can show you guys. Metrics, logs, workbooks. Let's go into Azure Monitor over here. Oh yeah, this is my live deployment, so I've got some other areas in here that I might not want to show. So I thought I could kill some time by showing some metrics and things, but I just realized that there's some things in here that I might not want to show on a public stage. So if there's no more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for joining. Anybody want to do a wrap up, Ursula?
Sorry?
Does anybody want to do a wrap up? Is that it? Can we close the call? Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, I would say if there are no any questions and you all have Bernie's email address, just reach out for any additional question. Also from our side, thanks for joining. I hope there were some good insights for you. I found it very interesting. Thanks all, and let's close for today and see you the next time. Bye.
Yeah, just before we wrap up, I almost forgot, is that next week we will have another webinar on the relevance of Azure in combination with Dynamics 365 Business Central. So if you want to join that webinar, there is a link on the QBS events landing page, or just get a hold of me and I'll send an invite through to you guys. The South African partners, I'll send an invite through to you guys for that one in any case within the next week.
Thanks, Bernie. Thanks, Ursula. Bye-bye then.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Keep well. Bye.
Bye, everyone.